everybody. It's Wednesday again. It's another edition of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast Live. And we have an extra special guest tonight. I'm excited about this episode. So I want you guys to please share and invite with your friends and family. The topic is what men get wrong in relationships, right? We always talk about how to fix the women and you know, we talk about different things that women go through, but we very seldom hear about how men think and what men are doing wrong and how we, you know, how men can actually look at how to work on some things, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 30 seconds. Well, not 30, maybe 15 seconds to make sure everything is going where it's supposed to go. We'll be right back. Hold on.
This one for the streets that taught me lessons. Hey, they told me about the grief and people out here stressing. They told me how the evils wanna keep you from progressing. It's people in your circle wanna keep you from your blessings. No talking to them people when them people come with questions. This mama say no renting for them that possessing. Be careful of the people you invest in.
All right, we are back. So for those of you who are just joining in, make sure that you say hello. Let me know where you're chiming in from. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope at the same time. So choose your poison. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste your time tonight. So this is a live podcast recording. So what I'm going to do, the way this works is we will pause for 3 seconds. Then I'll start the podcast. When we finish the podcast, I'll pause for 3 more seconds. And then after that, we can kind of have, you know, if you have questions, we can talk freely there. If you have questions during the show, if it's pertinent, I'll address them during the show. But we're recording audio too. So just be aware of that. So we're going to get started. And welcome to another episode of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. My name is Derek Jones and I'm your host. I'm a certified life coach, an engineer, a strategist, and a mental health advocate. And today we have a special guest tonight. He actually has a novel, a book that he wrote that speaks to men, right? And I'm going to show you a real quick splash screen. If you're on the live, if you're on the audio, I'm just showing a picture of what the book is, and you'll understand it in a minute. So the book it's called The Manual, emphasis on the word man, the Relationship Manual for Men That's Loved by Women. And our special guest is named Andre A.J. Carter. I'm going to let him introduce himself because he knows way more about himself than I do, right? We're going to get that in. So give me a second here. And first thing I want to do, I'm going to bring him up. So 1 second here. I want to make sure that the audio and everything is good here. So hold on. All right. Welcome, Mr. Carter. Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. We are glad that you are here. And I want to make a couple statements first, and then we're going to let you introduce yourself. So we're going to talk about 3 of the chapters in the book tonight. We'll get to that in a second. But I did take a scan and I read a couple chapters, and I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. I actually went through and I'm a staunch critic of how things translate to people and the words that you use and how it feels. And it was an easy read, but it was an impactful read. And a lot of the things you said really hit home, even for me. We're going to talk about that later because it was some stuff and I was like, that's me. So we're going to get into that, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And once again, welcome.
How y'all doing out there? My name is Reverend Andre A.J. Carter, and I am the author of The Manual, the Relationship Book for Men That's Loved by Women. All right. I'm also the founder of Building New Ministries. Okay, what we do at Building New Ministries is just teach the young Black youth just to re-educate their minds and let them know that they can be great too and whatnot. It doesn't matter how you start, but how you end. All right, so that's what I do.
So what? Quick question: What was the inspiration for you to write this particular book?
That's a hot question. I wanted to sit up there and change careers because I was always into writing, but I was a songwriter. I have 29 copywritten songs out there, and I wanted to change up a little bit, so I decided to write a book. And what I know most about is women, because I was very promiscuous back in the day.
Well, you know, they say the best teachers are the ones that've been through some things, right?
I've been through some things.
So we're gonna so this book, just give us like a little kind of a synopsis of what the book is for and what it's about and why you chose this title.
All right. Well, it's called The Manual because it's for men. It's a manual for men. So it's a play on words. Okay. The book is just about how to treat your woman. It has more to do with serious relations, not about pimping and all that, and picking up hoes at the club. It's not about that. It's about people that if you're really serious and you really want to get into a relationship, this is the manual to get. Tells you all of that.
Right. And so when I read the chapters that I did read, and by the way, this book has so many different aspects of relationships and how kind of men need to identify with how to treat their woman and how you should behave and how you should think in a relationship. And like I said earlier, I was pleasantly surprised, and I went through and I was like, he did hit a little bit of everything in this book. And that's something that's needed. Sometimes we'll have books that talk about one thing, or it'll glaze over some stuff, but you really hit some points in there. And we're going to talk about 3 of those chapters tonight, just to give people kind of like a preview of what to expect when they get the actual book. And we're also going to touch on some things that people need to hear anyway, right? So what we're going to do, and also I did want to ask you this kind of question. It's a little funny. So you also are known as the love mechanic. Tell me how did that come about?
People always ask that question, and it's not what you think. All right, it goes like this: when you go get your car fixed, you go to a mechanic, right? Mm-hmm. He fixes your car. A love mechanic fixes your relationships.
Gotcha.
Simple.
Gotcha. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to get into 3 of the chapters that you have in your book, and we're just going to kind of expound on some things, and I'll jump in as needed. But we just going, we're going to talk about the book, but we just going to have a conversation. So the first chapter that we're going to talk about is called "Maintaining a Lasting Relationship." So this one, and I'm speaking like this because I got a little excited when I saw all the topics and the depth or whatever. So this one to me felt like, and you can tell me what this chapter is about, but for me, this was kind of like an overview of what was to come next in the book. So this is just kind of like laying out the blueprint. So if you could tell us a little bit about this particular chapter, maintaining a lasting relationship, and kind of like some of the points that it kind of hits.
In that chapter, I hit a few points as far as teaching people how people change over time and how to maintain, their relationship. Because if you keep doing the same things, you're not really maintaining a relationship. You got to sit up and ask the person, what's new about them, what might be different. There's so many things that happen in a relationship, and I'll give you a prime example. My mom was married for 25 years, and she used to love this perfume called White Diamond by Elizabeth Taylor.
Right.
All right. She used to love that. That was her favorite. Now, my dad kept buying it for her and buying it for her and buying it for her over and over and over again. One year, she started crying. Why? Because she was always getting the same thing, and she no longer wanted the same thing. See, communication could have stopped all of that.
Right.
But communicate.
Yeah.
So that's what that chapter's about.
Yeah, and just to use your car analogy, it's kind of one of those things, and I was guilty of this in the past too, is when you drive in a car and you don't do the maintenance and you don't do the oil changes, eventually it breaks down.
Yeah.
And that engine go out on you, it's over. You can't even, unfortunately, sometimes you gotta get a whole new car.
Yeah.
So so that one gave a real concise overview of what was to come. And the thing about it was there's so many chapters in this book that this one chapter giving you kind of like an overview, to me, it gave the overview, but I was overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that came behind it. And the communication thing, this is something that I always champion, is huge. It's probably one of the most important things in a relationship to keep it going. And it's one of the easiest and the hardest things to do because we let our emotions get in the way. So we're going to move to the next one. In the next two, we can probably talk a little bit more because it's less of an overview and it's more kind of pinpointing certain topics. And then number two, I got my own comments on number two. Number two's chapter was what does it mean to spend quality time? That's a huge one. I'm going to let you talk about that. And then I have some comments on the other side of that.
Well, a lot of men think that, just because they're not out at the club or whatever, and they're in the house with their wife, that's not quality time. All right, you got to sit up there and really sit down, talk to her, ask her how her day was, really communicate with her and whatnot, because you never know what's going on in her life. So you definitely want to sit up there and do a lot of communication and whatnot. Make sure that you're there for her. Find out what is it that you can do to make her life easier, because maybe she don't even like the fact that you coming home, chilling on the sofa, watching TV with your feet up and all that type of stuff. Maybe she want a little help around the house, but she's not going to say nothing about it. She's not saying nothing about it, but she's sitting there getting pissed off. Know that.
Yeah.
So,
the one part that got me was there was a part in there where you said something about, as a man, we think about, we work all week and then at the end of the week we hang out with our boys, but we're not thinking about the woman that's at home, and what she needs. We worrying about us getting our stress relief from work, but we not worrying about what she may be dealing with or even spending that time with her. And how being present isn't enough. Like as men, and I've been guilty of this. We think being present is time. Just being present, just being in the house, and you in the house every day. And then when you go out, and your wife or your girlfriend or whatever it is will say, "You haven't spent any time with me," and then you'll say like, "Well, I've been here every day, and I'm doing." It's not the same. I've been that dude. It's one of those things where it's selfish. The selfish act of thinking that you're the only one that needs relief, but you're in a partnership.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that chapter, like overall, what I took away from just even the titling of the book, because for some people they may say, I get the manual part, but then it says, what does it say? What's the title again? It's the manual, but loved by women.
The relationship manual for men that's loved by women.
For men that's loved by women, right? And so the fourth that's loved by women part, if you don't understand what that means, what I gathered from what I read and everything, it's a way for you to kind of look into the mind of how a man thinks, even in his flaws. But when women read this, it's kind of like, it's a manual for men, but a woman will gain knowledge out of it because she can actually get into that head and see like, hey, mate, he's hanging out with his boys. And this is, something that he does, but I didn't really think about why. I really didn't think about where his head was at. And that is why I think that part is important too. Like, it's not just for men, it's for women to understand this better too.
Right.
So
they're accepting a lot of nonsense that they didn't realize they was accepting.
Right. And once again, that goes back to communication. That thing that don't go anywhere. That goes nowhere. And it, like I said, it's something that I've struggled with, and I'm a communicator, and it's still, depending on who you matched up with, it could be something that's hard for even somebody who is a great communicator. You have to really step outside yourself and think about that other person, especially as a man. You gotta put your woman, up on that pedestal and say, what do you need me to do?
That's it.
Yeah. So we're going to segue into number 3, and then we're going to and then I want to mention a couple of things after that, and then we'll see if we have anybody asking any questions or anything like that, because we're getting close to about 30 minutes or so. So we're gonna just talk about this last one, because this last one is very serious. The last one that we're going to talk about is abuse is not only physical but mental. Mm-hmm. So talk about that one a little bit.
All right. A lot of guys think they're not abusing their wife or their girlfriend just because they're not putting their hands on them. But if you're going around cussing her out, humiliating her, saying things in public that are private situations, that's abuse.
Yep.
That's abuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of guys are guilty of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times that ego gets in the way, and sometimes, in certain situations, the man may try to, to feel like they're in control of this situation, and in control of that situation, you don't realize how hurtful even just your words are or your mannerisms. And in some cases, because I know some women gonna be like, I'm not like that. It's a lot of women out there that are sitting there and they're taking the abuse in the name of love, or in the name of, we have kids together and all of that. And
right.
You're building trauma over time. And what do you, I always tell people, what do you look like on the other side of that? Who are you? Who do you become when you sit in that for years and years and years? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, we are, and I'm a mental health person. So when you look at that man may think he's this macho guy and he's telling his woman what to do and she's doing it. But there's something in there with you that makes you feel like that's okay. That ain't cool either. So with this one, with the abuse not only being physical, there's a lot of men, I believe, that like I said before, they do it almost kind of like not even consciously. It's like it's a part of who they are. And until you actually have somebody point it out to you, that's not your wife, but another, because sometimes, you just like a little kid, you need to hear from a different voice before it sink in. And that's why I always tell people, from even what you do as a relationship coach and as a speaker and an author, sometimes you need to find somebody that knows a little bit more about it than you do, because we don't have all the answers. And for each one of these 3 chapters, the people that are listening to this, you have to realize that a lot of us, and I would even be remiss to say most of us, don't have the tools. We're never shown the tools. We don't have the examples of what it's supposed to look like to engage, to communicate, to love, and we winging it. And through winging it, we causing a lot of pain out here. And winging it in this age that we're in now, with the way these relationships are going, winging it is not good enough. You can't just skate by hurting and trauma and all of that kind of stuff and think it's cool. And the point that I always bring home, especially with this abuse section that we're talking about, it's not just you, it's your kids. You're gonna
learn all that.
It all rolls downhill, and it's not, that's a serious thing. Yeah. And then we get upset when we hear this stuff on the news about somebody, beating on somebody, or they it's a teenager. And I'm like, where did they learn this from?
Exactly.
So my question is, let me see. I think I see a comment here. Nope, that's not a question. So my last question to you before we kind of just start getting ready to wrap things up. This book is very, and I keep saying this over and over again because y'all have to understand. I'm like really crazy with details and analysis. It's a gift and a curse. And I really want you guys to really, especially men and women, you got to get your hands on this book, not just because he's on here, but because it's important for us to understand each other better. And sometimes I always talk about, talking in clinical terms all the time. It kind of scares people to have something that you can read and it's not a hard read and you're still getting all the important information out of it. It's important for us to learn each other better so that we communicate better so that we can get back to the love that we're supposed to have and all of that good stuff. It's always going to be a work in progress. And that's why I say you get a book like this, you fill in the blanks that you've been trying to fill in. This is one thing that's like a pet peeve of mine is when people try to fill in the blanks themselves, even though they don't know the answer to it. and it's detrimental to just the way we operate. Like, stop filling in the blanks and go get the tools and the information from the people that know better, that have been through all of that stuff. Like coaches, a therapist, a counselor. Figure it out, because you don't want to spend, and I always say this really slow, you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing the same thing over and over again and trying to wonder why you still hurt.
Right.
So before we let you go, I want you to tell people where they could find you. Oh, first of all, do you have any other comments before we do that?
Well, I mean, to emphasize what you were saying about the abuse being mental and not just physical, one thing I notice is that a lot of people, like, let's say, when you get into an argument with your woman, you start cussing and stuff, calling her a B and, oh, she this, she that. Keep on topic when you're arguing. Keep on topic. Her calling her out her name ain't got nothing to do with what the issue is. And if you, as long as you are calling her all these different names, she stops listening. She calls you a name. You stop listening.
Yep.
So what did you learn in all of that? You learned nothing.
Yeah.
All you did was cause more anger in the situation. You put fuel on the fire.
Yeah. And what I tell people is that when you do that, and you hold that in, and then you go to the next argument and you're just stacking it over time. And eventually it's going to blow up. It's either going to blow up or you got to find somewhere else to purge it and get rid of it. And normally it's not in your household. And that's the recipe for disaster. So let everybody know where they can find you. And we are going to put his information in the comments on the live. And we're also going to put them in the show notes on the podcast. But let them know verbally where they can find you so they can know where to get it.
The easiest way to find me is to go on Facebook and go to Rev Andre AJ Carter. That's REV ANDRE AJ CARTER. That's simple. There's a shop now button, and all you gotta do is press the button. It'll take you right to Amazon. Simple.
Okay, cool. Y'all make sure y'all get that book. And like I said, the information will be typed in the show notes, and we'll put either he or I will type it in the comments under the live. And I thank you, sir, for coming and sharing, your information with us and sharing that. Let us know about your novel, because, like I said, it's important. I don't put my stamp on much, but I put my stamp on that because that information is real. So, ladies and gentlemen, please go get that book. And once again, we thank you for coming out, and maybe we'll have you at some point in the future on another type of show, because I got some other stuff coming up, but we'll talk about that on the side. And yeah, we're gonna let you go. And once again, thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
All right.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We are going to wrap this up. And what I want you guys to do is to really think about how effectively you communicate with each other and what can you possibly do better. In a book like this, will just give you, it's just another avenue for you to take for you to get the information that you need in order to try to make things better. So again, I thank you for coming to the Relationship Gumbo podcast. Again, you know, you guys can find me at www.mrcarlogic.net. And I have apparel merch there. I have, you know, life coaching. And we also have all the podcast information there. So please go to the podcast. Podcasts are everywhere. So go ahead and check that out. Just search for Relationship Gumbo anywhere you can get podcasts. And again, I thank you. And I also appreciate you. Have a great night. All right, we're done, guys. Any questions? We're gonna put him back up here real quick just in case anybody has any questions. I'm gonna wait like a couple minutes to see if anybody has any questions, and then we're gonna get out of here. So if you have any questions for him, let me know. I see a couple of people on Facebook. I see Monty Weaver, D. Marie, Alicia, Carol Michelle, Lashley is watching. Alicia's here. And I saw a lot of other people here earlier. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, we're gonna get out of here. And I thank you guys for coming out. I know there's a delay. It's like a 15 or 20-second delay. So I'm gonna wait a second and see if they have any questions. And if not, we're gonna get out of here and put this one in the record books. Yeah, I don't see anything here. And one more place I'm gonna look on Periscope, see if they have any questions, and then we're gonna get out of here. Nope, no questions on Periscope. All right, sir, we are going to get out of here, and you have a great night. I'm going to wrap this up. Good night, guys.
Good night.